Holtz-Eakin on the economic fallout of all of this, but more specifically of this, on the same day the president will be meeting with Senator Shelley Capito of the state of West Virginia. She's sort of like the Republicans' lead person on negotiating these infrastructure talks. They're still miles apart right now. But Doug, the way things stand, even though they've come closer together, the two sides are still a little bit more than $500 billion apart as they are on how to pay for it. The president's plan has taxes knee-deep into his proposal. You know, the Republican plan relies on user fees, that sort of thing. Old funds unused yet for COVID relief. So where do you see this going?
Well, I think you've summarized it pretty well, Neil. I don't think there's an obvious path forward. They're very far apart on the top line number. They're very far apart on the pay-fors, as you said. They also don't agree on the definition of infrastructure. They're into their fifth meeting, and they still haven't agreed on what they're trying to spend the money on. So at this point, I don't see something that immediately emerges as a path forward. And the real question is just how patient the president and the administration are going to be. Do they genuinely want a bipartisan bill, and are they willing to continue to negotiate as they inch toward what may be a final conclusion, or are they going to pull the plug on this and try to pass things with strictly Democratic votes?
I wonder if they even have the Democratic votes, because it's close, certainly in the House enough, where they have but only about a few representatives sort of wiggle room, and it's virtually dead even in the Senate. So what do you think?
I think it's an open question. Part of the problem with this approach of saying, okay, we're not going to have an administration position on what is infrastructure. We're just going to say we want to spend $1.5 trillion, is that every individual member of Congress has their own idea about what belongs in that bill. And just getting agreement on one side of the aisle is very difficult. So you're going to see a huge range of proposals from the progressives in the House to the center of the road Democrats who are up for re-election in 2022, and they may not be able to get agreement. And so in the end, I think we'll be in September and October, and they're going to be combining elements of the American Jobs Plan, the infrastructure bill, with the American Family Plan, their other proposals, and trying to figure out what they can get through the Congress this year.
I also wonder whether all of this spending and the president's $6 trillion budget, let's say he gets everything he wants and it passes along party lines, Doug, what are we looking at here?
Well, this is an extraordinary document. It proposes to have the highest level of federal spending as a fraction of GDP over a 10-year period, the highest in history. That would include the 10-year window that had World War II in it. So this is an enormous amount of spending. It has the highest level of taxation in modern history over the next 10 years. And even with that, it proposes to borrow an additional $1.5 trillion to pay for all that spending. So it's not just the $6 trillion you hear about this year. It's what it would put in place for the next 10 years. Enormous amount of intervention in the government, in the economy, and a lot more red ink. And that's a real set of headwinds to the economy that I think would ultimately backfire on the president and his followers.
Doug, thank you very much, I think. So we'll see all this and where it falls out, my friend. Douglas Holtz-Eakin, the former Congressional Budget Office Director, American Action Forum President.